Una de las gratísimas sorpresas de esta edición del Festival Internacional de Cine de Guanajuato es tener al director Anton Corbijn, director y fotógrafo que viene a presentar su película Life, su más reciente trabajo, y quién mejor que él para contarnos acerca de esta nueva película.
I was never a big James Dean kind of guy. I'm more so now, I have to say, after research and realizing more where he stood for, and how Marlon Brando and James Dean were at the cusp of this big change 10 years after the end of the Second World War, where that generation finally found a voice to express instead of being part of the culture of their parents. But for me the way in really was the photographer, Dennis Stock, because he photographs people in the public eye at that point. That's what I've been doing since the early 70s. And when I started photography, I was quite shy and I had a very strong religious background, so I always looked at people in their environment, so I didn't make a lot of portrait pictures. And neither does Dennis Stock. Dennis Stock has always people in relation to the backgrounds, which is really interesting. If you go to his work, there's rarely a real portrait. Usually it's environment is a big part of the image that he makes, which is also interesting 60 years after date, because you learn a lot more about the period, because you see cars in the picture, or the way a house was built, or the way people dressed in the background. So they tell more of a story than just a portrait. Of course I looked into all his work, and I was ashamed that I wasn't more familiar with his work when he was alive. Initially I wanted to make it a black and white film, but it became a color film, and I think that's a really good thing, because Dennis Stock's pictures are black and white, and if the whole film looked like his pictures, then it didn't look like he was a great artist. It looked like, oh yeah, it's easy, anybody could have taken that picture. But if you have the world how it was, a color world, and then you see more what he did in his art. So that was an important element.
How do you see the technology has impacted all the work of visual arts?
Well, with the digital technology, you can keep taking pictures everywhere. And in the old ways, and how I grew up, is that you make more a selection of what you want to photograph. You're more careful of the image you take, and you don't take 40 photographs of one moment. You take just a few. When I make movies, I shoot now digital. It's just a very different medium. Although I try to get the budget to shoot on film, it wasn't there. It's just more expensive to shoot on film. But the look, of course, is amazing. But yeah, as a photographer, I prefer film for a few reasons. It's very old-fashioned, but I like to go somewhere, take my pictures, and come back and not knowing exactly what I did. And it's a kind of stress, but a pleasant kind of stress. And it makes your job not a 9-to-5 kind of job. It doesn't make it a job, it makes it an adventure. And that's fantastic if your life can be one big adventure.